Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Sacred Emergence Podcast. It is Michelle Wong, and I'm here for another solo today, solo epi. This one is, it's one that we all know about, right? I'm going to talk about perfectionism today. And I have my little note sheet with me that I kind of jotted a few notes, bullet points. And on the very top, I wrote Perfectionism 2.0. And the reason why that is because my very first episode of this podcast, so if you go back to episode 1, 2019, I talk about perfectionism. And honestly, everything that I'm saying, we all know, right? We all know that nobody is perfect. And at the same time, it bears repeating, almost like a broken record, because our inner self-talk and the world around us, for whatever reason, there's very strong messaging around we are striving for perfection. It's out there externally. And also because it's out there externally and probably growing up in how we were raised, whatever system, be it church, religious system, parents, school, it's like there's this internal strive for perfectionism, and it shows up in so many different ways. So I wanted to talk about one that has been relevant in my own life, and based on people's email responses to me, I sent it an email talking about perfectionism, and based on people's responses, I know it's relevant for everybody, right? So the very first episode I talked about, that type of perfectionism, I was referring to like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect to get it done. Like, just hit the submit, just send it out. Right? Because a lot of times we want to make sure everything looks good before we hit publish, before we, release a project, before we, submit it, right? Before we hit the submit button. And, I created this podcast very imperfectedly, if I'm saying that right. Literally, like, I don't even have a fancy microphone. And 4 years later, I still don't. I'm using my Apple headset and it's wired, right? It's nothing fancy with my GarageBand. That's how I create these podcast episodes. And some people who are, podcasters, they go into their closet to record it so it's better sound. Like, you're not going to find me in my closet right now because I don't have a walk-in closet. My window's open. So like, that's one type of perfectionism where I feel like I'm pretty good with that. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's I'm just getting it out the door, right? Like it is good enough. And I really want this podcast, my vision for it was to be like chill vibes, conversational. Even when I interview guests, I don't have questions prepared, right? So that's the vibe and I like it, right? So in order for me to create these podcast episodes with a guest, like for me, I had to mentally be okay with it. Like, this is the vibe. This is the standard that I'm setting so that I don't have to like strive for perfection. So that was my workaround around it. And if that would help you, if you're also a type A-er, if you're a type A-er like me, how can we make it so that it is less about, getting everything all lined up and perfect, right? How can we just get it out the door, right? And maybe also listen to the first episode. And then there's the other sneaky part of perfectionism that comes where this is where the 2.0 comes in. And this is the one where I know we all know it, but I just wanted to, again, say, let's cut ourselves some slack, right? So, case in point, I was doing my own breathwork practice. It was 20 minutes, and I have a lot of things going on in my life right now. There's a lot of decisions to be made, like from little things like, hey, which iPhone cover do I want for my phone, to like just bigger aspects, right? And there's just a lot of things going on in my life. So it's very natural for, my brain to want to analyze things and filter through decisions and choices. And honestly, sometimes when I get the chance to just be silent about something, um, my mind will want to kind of kick in, right? Because it's like, if I'm not distracted looking at, online streaming or whatever, my mind is going to want to kick in. So during breath work, just 20 minutes, my brain was like active and, it was just on and it wouldn't shut up, right? And it's okay when that happens. But what was really interesting was after the active component of my breathwork practice, I was laying there on my back and it was in the silence, like when I was like complete with the active part where my body actually had space and then it felt tingly afterwards. Usually I feel it during the active component, but it was in the post breathwork bliss, that's how I call it, or in the afterglow of breathwork, I started to feel this tingly sensations in my body. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And as I laid there, I felt like, I can't really describe it. It's a visceral feeling, but I really felt my body open up and actually have more space. And in that space, I actually had room to receive my brain and was like, oh, wow. Like I was thinking the whole time, and a part of me was slightly shaming myself of like, why couldn't my brain turn off during the active portion of breath work? Like, why couldn't I do that? And funny, it was in that space of my body just really being open and relaxed. I heard this deeper wisdom come through, and it was like, hey, like, it's okay. Like, Michelle, you have a lot of things going on right now. It's okay that your brain is just processing and needing to think. Like, it's okay. Like, we're here for it. And that was my body speaking to me. And I tell you not, like, it was just so refreshing to hear that. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, this is like a reminder of like being gentle with ourselves. And also, like, for those of you who are listening who tend to be type A's and are in your head a lot and tend to over process and over analyze, I'm here to tell you that it is okay. And the thing that tends to happen though is we leave our body behind, right? Like we leave our body behind. We operate from our neck up. And the invitation is, can we allow for space for our body to come with, right? Even better yet, can we allow our body to lead? Because in that moment of when I was on my back, it was literally like 3 to 5 minutes of like my body gave my brain grace and was like, cool, we're on the same page now, right? But if I didn't give myself that pause, like I would have still berated my brain and my mind for overthinking, overprocessing in what is supposed to be an active meditation, right? And it's just one of those things where like we all have our brains, I guess, or whatever, like the inner critic, the inner voice. There's a sneaky way where unless it's a practice that we are consciously working on, it's going to come up. And when we catch it, be gentle. Like that, I think that's the whole point of this podcast episode. So maybe it's going to be really short, right? Perfectionism 2.0, be gentle with yourself. When you catch yourself trying to be perfect or shaming yourself or judging yourself or the inner mean voice, inner mean girl, whatever coming through, say, how can I be gentle with myself? And it's a practice, right? We're not going to be perfect at it. And when you catch it, just be like, oh, okay. it really is a practice. I'm working with a mentor right now, and one of my assignments was to like walk, just to kind of slow things down. And this is something I am working on. And, part of the practice that my mentor invited me to do was like, yeah, like, as you're walking around in your home or as you're out, walking to your car or whatever, like, see if you can just slow down and lead with your pelvis and see how that feels, right? So I was at the grocery store and it was pretty quiet in the grocery store. And I was just looking to see if I missed anything in the aisle. Sometimes there's good deals that I miss. And while I was there, I was like, oh, I need to practice slowing down, right? So I did. I started walking slowly, leading with my pelvis, and like, this feels really good. And then next thing you know, I'm at the checkout, I'm in my car, I'm at home, right? And then hours later, I was like, oh, I did that today. I paused. I mean, not paused, but like I walked for 3 seconds, paying attention to my pelvis and leading with my pelvis. And then like, I don't know what happened after that. I think I got distracted. It was probably like ice cream or some cracker, gluten-free crackers that got distracted. Like, I don't know, my mind took over, right? So I kind of reported back to my mentor. And she was like, okay, cool. When you noticed that you got distracted, what was your inner self-talk? Was it like, oopsie, I did it again? Or was it like, damn it? And so we all have different ways where that inner mean voice will show up. For me, and walking slowly, leading with my pelvis, I was not berating myself, right? I was just like, it was kind of neutral, like, oh, I got distracted. There was no judgment. And for me, that's like an A plus, right? However, like the whole over mental analyzing thing, like sometimes I can be hard on myself for that. And so the fact that my body came on board after breath work, now I have this tangible, visceral sensation in my body that I think now I'm even more consciously aware that the next time I'm in my head, actually that happened again today because I actually did another breathwork session and I was in my head. And I just let myself do it. I was like, yep, there's a lot happening, letting myself there. And again, during the post breath work, I just actually fell asleep. So it's like, this is practice, right? I'm not saying I'm going to get it perfect and I'm never going to, be like, oh my God, I did it again. And it's a practice of being gentle with ourselves. I will say like something else I'm working on is just being like catching boundaries on the spot, like being better with it, right? And it can, whatever, like express my needs in the moment. Like sometimes I'm not great or someone says something and it's not actually like what I need at the moment or like whatever for whatever, right? Whatever breachment where I didn't speak up for myself. Sometimes I can be hard on myself because it's something that I've been working on for a while. And that I was hard on myself. And I didn't even know I was hard on myself. So that was the thing. I was actually working with my somatic therapist, and he was like, oh, like, I'm sensing like you're kind of like talking to yourself, kind of shame, like maybe there's a little bit of shame there, like, oh my God, I did it again. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And it's like, can we be gentle to ourselves, right? And here's the reminder that I actually needed to hear is like perfectionism is an addiction and it's subtle, right? It's not talked about, but I feel like this was a statistic I heard, and I don't even, like, I forget where I heard it, but I think it's true. Like if every single woman on this planet, right? Or even in the US or Canada, like wherever, if we stop buying a beauty product for just one day, right? The beauty industry, the trillion-dollar industry that it is, would crumble. So the beauty industry, the wellness industry really preys on our insecurities, right? To look thin, to look beautiful, makeup, good skin, like all the things to stay young, look young. And that's in and of itself like this perfection for like there's this perfectionism where we forget that like there's so much beauty in being a crone, right? Being an elder, right? Like we forget that. And we've lost the respect for, the older generation. So that's just an example of like the strive for perfectionism can be so ingrained, and it can come from maybe our school system, religious upbringing, maybe parental upbringing, caregivers, because it's like this perpetual thing that gets passed down from generation to generation. And this is a really beautiful opportunity to just take a step back and be like, how can I be more gentle to myself? Because our body hears everything we tell ourselves, right? And the more we can be kind to ourselves, the more I believe our body is going to come on board, right? Our cells and like the change is going to happen even faster. Because imagine like yelling at somebody, they're not going to receive the yelling, right? It's like there's going to be resistance, right? It's almost like when you're a customer service, like if you're talking to somebody in customer service and you're yelling at them, they're not going to want to help you. Right? This is where I was like, don't yell at the customer service agent, please, right? They're doing their best, right? And it's really not their fault, right? Like really, like yeah. Or like servers, right? Like they're like we cannot project anger to these people because they're not going to want to help you, right? Same thing if we're yelling at our own selves. We're not like our body, it's going to take a lot longer to do the change. And so this is a practice. We're not going to be perfect at it. And when you catch yourself shaming yourself, berating yourself, inner criticking yourself, be like, oh, look at that. I'm doing it again. Okay. Like maybe laugh, like, ha ha ha, like that happened. Okay. Yep. Let's do a 180 and just like be gentle, right? So when I realized I was in my head and I was kind of beating myself up for it, I was like, oh, okay. It's totally okay. Thank you. Thank you, brain, for helping. And then thank you, body, for coming along. And honestly, the more we can allow our bodies to lead, the better, because our body is so freaking wise. Like, honestly, I would have still been like kind of shaming myself for being in my head if it wasn't for my body opening up, having more space. And like, yeah, it's totally cool, brain. Thank you. Thank you for working so hard. Like, I don't even know how to really describe it. It was like this very visceral feeling that you just had to feel it. You just had to be in the feels with it. All that to say, breath work. Oh my goodness. So, Tuesday, September 26th. So this episode, so basically a week from now, if you're listening to this episode right when it's published on, I don't know what day, the 19th, right? The 19th? Yes. Okay. So a week from the 19th, so the 26th, I am leading a virtual breathwork group called Breathe into Courage. And courage, however you want to define it, when I came up with it, it was courage to release the imperfection, courage to allow for our body to lead. There's so much there. And for those who are email subscribers, you get a special discounted link. Otherwise, I'll drop the link to register in the show notes. It is at low pricing right now because, well, this is the first one I'm doing, so I wanted to make it very affordable. But if you want to get even more, make it even more of a discount, join my mailing list. This has been a game changer for me. This 3-part active breath has been a game changer. And what's unique of how I lead it is I do offer modifications. And also like, it's just really, really powerful. Like this is where our body and our breath will meet us where we are at. And I love holding space. Like I just love offering this for people. So come, invite a friend. Join us. It's at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, and it will be recorded if you cannot make it live. And then on October 1st, I am leading a beta 3-month group container called Spacious. So this is, we're going to do it together in community of infusing more breath work, human design, and it's really around creating more space in your body, releasing the imperfection, like the strive for perfection, I should say. And also like creating more space in your body from if you're feeling like emotionally stuck or burdened or heavy. And just like, yeah, like allowing for your body to come on board even more so that over time we can lead with our body. And like it's like our body, mind, spirit, like all of it, right? Just like we are in sync, right? Because a lot of times we ignore our body, right? It's not so much our mind, it's like our body is forgotten, right? And we operate from the neck up. So this is a chance to really allow yourselves to do that. And yeah, 3 months, it's at its lowest pricing. And we'll meet weekly, either for a community call or for breath work. And everybody who signs up gets a one-on-one private session with me. And again, pricing is at its lowest because it is beta. So if you have any questions with that, yeah, reach out to me. You can email me, michellewong.xo@gmail.com, or you can just DM me on Instagram at michellewong.xo. I'll put all the links, the link for the group breathwork session on Tuesday, September 26th will be in the show notes. And I don't have a sales page or anything or an info page for the beta version because it's in beta. I'm testing this out. So we will see. We will see. You'll be on my mailing list. Like you have to be on my mailing list to get more information. But if you are curious, I'm happy to send you more details. If you are interested, I'll also send you like a mini questionnaire to see if we'd be the right fit, and I'll also give you the pricing for it. It is pretty low cost. I want to make it accessible. So yeah. Okay, this is a shorty today, a shorty episode. I want to make sure that I didn't leave anything else out. Yeah, the more we can be gentle with ourselves, I mean, that takes practice as well. Like it all is a practice, but this is worth it, right? It's worth doing. And I think the more we can do it within community, even if you can only come to the breathwork, totally cool. Come for that. And there also, like, if we catch ourselves shaming ourselves, don't shame yourself for shaming yourself. Just be gentle and just be like, oh, okay, I did it again. Like, how can we, be friendly with ourselves, right? Because we have to be our own best friend. And I know you know this, right? You've heard of it, you know it. And also sometimes doing it is completely different, because it's like a lot of times when we leave our body behind, we forget. And the more we can integrate, the more our cells can come aboard and can come on board and integrate and embody these changes, the better. So I'm in it too. I'm with you all, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing. Like I was talking to a mentor and she's like, oh my God, like I'm also practicing this too. And the more I practice, the better I'm getting, like the more I catch myself. And it felt so refreshing to hear that. Honestly, if she was like, oh no, like I'm an expert at this, like 100%, I walk slow, I don't have negative self-talk, like I'm no longer in my head. Like, I'd be like, okay, you alien. But it was like, I said, like, it's really, really awesome to hear you say this, like that you're also practicing this and like we're doing it together essentially, right? So, hi, also human, let's do this together. Let me know if you have any questions on anything. And yeah, so come join us. I hope you're having a beautiful week. I am off to a breathwork facilitation training retreat this week. So I will have even more juice for you when I return. And yeah, okay, to be continued. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, night, wherever you're at. Also, if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know can benefit. Thank you in advance for sharing. And also, you can also just share it to your socials and make sure you tag me so I can also send you some love. And thank you. All right, cheers. To help you feel more supported and nourished in your body and nervous system, you're invited to download the free I Am Supported meditation in the show notes. May you feel grounded in who you are as you become the fullest expression of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing with those who can benefit. Until next time.